This is the Your Career Story podcast, and you're listening to episode 33, Dealing with a Micromanager, 3 Graceful Ways to Stop the Madness. Welcome to Your Career Story podcast, a show that's designed for rockstar professionals looking for that extra booster shot of confidence in their careers. Whether you're trying to get clarity on a job transition, want some work-life balance inspiration, or need a strategy to snag that promotion or raise, this podcast is for you. I'm your host, Jenna Viviano, ex-Wall Streeter turned startup junkie who now coaches hundreds of clients, empowering them to take back control of the job search and land their dream job. So sit back, grab a glass of wine, and prepare yourself for your weekly boost of career confidence. Welcome back, family. Happy December. We have only got like 2 weeks, a week left until 2020, until a new decade. My question to you becomes, how are you planning to finish strong? Hopefully it is spending some quality time, some QT with your family and with your friends, and loving on the coworkers that help make your year great. Or maybe if you didn't like going to work, you're thinking about, how am I going to change this for 2020? And if that's the narrative that you're thinking right now, we have an awesome program called Recruit the Employer. It's our signature program that helps people navigate through the muddy waters of figuring out what the heck they want to do with their lives and then teach them how to get there. We really specialize. If you're a mid to senior level person or executive who's looking to become a senior level executive, this is the program for you. We really teach you and come alongside you and show you how to brand yourself in the marketplace because it's so competitive. There's so many different nuances and little bits of information you need to know. And we have a pathway to get you from stuck in your career to unstuck and thriving. And so if that's really interesting to you, we want you to check us out at www.jennaviviano.com/RTE, T as in train. And so we're really excited about relaunching that program next year and providing really a networking opportunity for you guys with it. So keep an eye out if you're interested in learning more about that. That's where all the information is going to be. And we're going to be talking a lot about it on the podcast next year and hearing about people's success stories and all the fun, jazzy things. So we've been using this program for a couple of years now, and we're now offering it to more of you. So it's really exciting. So pumped about it. But it's so easy, I feel like, at the end of the year to just kind of pitter out, right? But I know you guys are go-getters. So we are going to continue this programming for this year and really end on a subject matter that I think is really interesting. And we don't really know how to talk about it in the workplace because it's kind of uncomfortable. Because if you have a micromanaging boss, they probably don't know that they're a micromanaging boss. So I want to equip you with the tools and tactics to help you manage that relationship better, but also to manage your emotions better and throughout the process. Because we forget that work is an emotional experience. We often think it's very transactional. I go in, I go out. And even if we go in at 8 a.m. and don't leave until midnight, we still feel like it's transactional, when really we have to acknowledge that work is emotional as well. Our workplaces are emotional. And so a lot of that happens in the workplaces, right? Most of the people that come to me don't come because they hate their job function. They come to me because they don't like the people that they're working with. So I'm going to do everything in my power to equip people with the tools that they can to create more peace in the workplace so people aren't job hopping so much, so that companies actually experience loyalty and that managers feel equipped to lead people really well. Because I feel, and I've talked about this on other podcasts, that there is a breakdown in middle management. So if you're in middle management and you feel like you're floundering, I so get that. You have not been prepared well, and you probably have not gotten the training that you need to lead other people. It's one thing to be really good at your job. It's a totally different skill set to lead individuals. I feel like we see you conceded at the top of organizations, lack of leadership skills, all that kind of stuff. But those people typically have had more tenure, they've had more experience. And it's my middle management people that I really empathize with. And you often see the micromanaging tendencies happen here, where someone was doing really well in their job, they got promoted, and now they are basically holding on for dear life, and that's why they're a micromanager. So in this episode, we're going to define what a micromanager actually looks like. We're going to talk through 3 ways to handle a micromanager, and then we're going to walk through how you can avoid becoming a micromanager. So if you see yourself on the pathway to leadership, if you're in that mid to senior level trajectory, or if you're a new grad and you're listening to this, congratulations. I'm excited to have you here. You're getting this information early and often, and that's the best that you can do for yourself. So other kind of points about about this is if you want to explore more of this concept and you have LinkedIn Premium, you can actually get my entire course for free on LinkedIn Premium under the LinkedIn Learning tab. So I don't know if you know this, if you have LinkedIn Premium, you can check out LinkedIn Learning, and they have tons of awesome resources for you, from management to leadership to job changing, which is obviously what I'm talking about a lot on there. And then also even things about like how to be a creative or how to like grow your business. There's a lot of different areas that they're talking about there. So you're going to find something that's helpful. But if you want to explore this topic more, my course is officially live. It's up there, so you can take a little bit of a gander. All right. So let's first talk about, do you actually have a micromanager? Because sometimes our managers are just having a bad week, right? It's more of a consistent messaging or a consistent attitude that your micromanager may have. So here's some examples of how to know if you actually have a micromanager. Number one, you don't have flexibility or freedom. So you're feeling like, man, I'm really feeling like I can't do anything without telling my manager about what I'm doing, exactly how I'm doing it, and when I'm doing it. They're kind of like nitpicky, right? Nitpicky. The second thing is to know if you have a micromanager is that you can't actually get anything done. So the micromanagers are the bottlenecks in a company. They're the ones who need you to run everything by them, check everything by them before you produce something, and you're feeling like you are spinning your wheels because you can't get anything done. And that can be really, really frustrating. I remember when I was in investment banking, one of the vice presidents, bless his soul, he was a wonderful man, very kind, but just was a micromanager. He was nitpicking every little thing, and it was really, really frustrating for me as an employee. So if you're feeling like you can never get anything done, if you feel like you don't have any flexibility or freedom to make choices on your own, and you have to do everything by their exact standards, that can feel really overwhelming, and it can feel debilitating. And it can feel like you're not really, really good at your job. And that can put a lot of stress on you, and then you don't actually perform really well. So it's like this awful ripple effect when managers, basically what you're feeling oftentimes is they don't trust you, right? That your manager doesn't trust you with what you've been given. I have to be very careful of that with Sarah, that I don't micromanage the way that she does things. I usually tell her, which honestly is, thank goodness, and she would tell you this is probably not my issue. My issue is I'm probably a little too hands-off. But when I give her like a result that I want to produce, like, hey, we need this freebie done by XYZ date, I'm very clear with her on what I need done. And I have to let her figure out what process it is to get there. And I'm not slacking her every 10 minutes. Hey, is it done yet? Or, hey, do you need help with that? Or what's going on there? That's making me as a microman. If I was to do that, that would make me a micromanager and make me not actually productive. And so you may have a micromanager if that's happening to you. And the last piece is kind of what we just already talked about, was that you're starting to believe that you're not really good at your job. And that's just not true, friends. So let me tell you this right now, straight up to your face, as if I'm holding it with my hands. You are good at your job. We're going to talk about why your manager's being a micromanager, and you need to be confident in your skill set, because at the end of the day, you cannot control them. You can only control your thoughts and beliefs and motives. And so you can't change how they're going to be. You can do your best to make it easier so that that relationship, the trust builds there. And we're going to talk about maybe a different way to flip it on its head to maybe empathize with your micromanager. I know, empathize with them. You probably hate them. They're probably making your life miserable. But I promise you, I know I've been through this with other clients where they've been really stressed out about their manager because they just feel beaten down at the end of the day. And if that's you, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry that it's the end of the year and you have a micromanager who is just making you feel like you're not good at your job. And the reality is you're going to have to build that confidence back up. When I left investment banking, it took me a good year to really feel confident in my skill set again. And I think that comes by people encouraging and calling out your skills and thoughtfully giving feedback. So feedback can be negative, but it doesn't have to be debilitating. I think what often happens when you have a micromanager is it can feel really debilitating and kind of passive aggressive. So we definitely don't want that. And I don't want you to be feeling that. So let me be your personal career coach right this very second and tell you you are good at your job. All right. So let's talk about some ways to handle this. So the first thing is empathizing. So empathy is a really big word. It's a hot topic in life and in business right now, but I think it has a lot of merit when dealing with a micromanager. I know that this is not easy to do. When you're feeling frustrated, you're feeling like you're not good at your job, you just are kind of angry and bitter and resentful towards your micromanager. It feels frustrating, and I totally get that. But here's what you have to remember. Your micromanager is probably fearful of something, right? They're fearful that it's not really about you at the end of the day. I was just having this conversation with somebody I know, and their boss was clearly being a micromanager. I called it out. I said, they're being a micromanager. Very passive aggressive, very rude. And I said to her, this isn't about you. This is about them. There's something going on right now in their life, whether personal or professional, that they're feeling the heat. And so they are now taking that out on you because they're more worried about their own reputation. You're just getting the brunt of it. So while that's not an excuse, we're definitely not excusing that behavior. We can look at it and empathize and say, okay, what's going on right now in their workplace that they are feeling overwhelmed? Are they getting pressure from their manager? Is their manager being a micromanager, right? So are they getting the pressure downstream? And that's why they are on your tail, right? It could be that they don't have a ton of experience managing. As I mentioned, middle management, this happens a lot where maybe they just don't know how to delegate well yet. Or maybe they're feeling the heat because they're feeling just like they're not good at their job. They're feeling like they're not good at leading. And that can trickle down and affect you. Again, not an excuse, just maybe more of a reality of stepping back, taking a bigger picture, and just being like, man, that sucks. I'm really sorry that they are experiencing that. When you're able to do that, that allows you to have empathy for that individual. It allows you to not just build up resentment. And at the end of the day, it's going to make you more peaceful internally. And that's my goal with this conversation today, is to give you more peace when you're dealing with that micromanager. And then at the end of the day, you also have to ask yourself, is there things that I can be doing better, right? You have to be self-aware in the workplace. You need to be honest with yourself, and not in a self-deprecating, shameful way where there's no place for that, but more in a, how could I make their life a little easier? Am I missing deadlines? Am I saying I'm going to do under or over promising and under delivering? Is that what's happening right now? Maybe that's why they're feeling really frustrated. And so I really, really would recommend that you be honest with yourself and identify some things that maybe you could improve upon and come to the table with. Interviewing can be really intimidating, especially at the end of the conversation. What do you say when they ask you, so, do you have any questions for me? You don't want to say, nothing, all good here. But you also don't want to pull out your notebook and say, actually, I have about 20 questions I'd like to discuss with you regarding this opportunity. It's definitely a delicate balance of asking the right questions to get to the heart of the company and impress the hiring manager. So I want to help you master this, friends. Head on over to www.jennaviviano.com/interview questions for my free guide to crushing your interview. In this guide, I will teach you how to ask questions that will get to the bottom of what the culture actually is like, not just what it says on Glassdoor. I want to help you unearth exactly what you'll be doing on a day-to-day basis in this new gig. And I'm going to help you understand if you and this new manager will actually enjoy working together. And I am going to make you look like an absolute boss. Again, if you know that you're going to have an interview coming up, you need to snag this guide. It is totally free, and it's going to clear up a lot of confusion you have prior to your interview. So head on over to www.jennaviviano.com/interview questions to get the questions you should be asking in an interview. All right, here's another way to handle it. So first step is to empathize and to understand maybe where your micromanager is coming from, why they are acting that way. And then the second piece is to define expectations. So I've mentioned this in other episodes before, but expectation management is where the biggest issue and breakdown in communication happens. And so you have to be really crystal clear on what it is that you have to accomplish and do really well. So from day one, when you enter into a new job, you need to have a meeting with your manager and you need to get crystal clear on what the job description actually is. Because if you think it's one thing and your employer thinks it another thing, your employer is going to be right. Right? So you need to get crystal clear for yourself and sanity on what you're working towards, what your main objectives are, and to divide that into three main things. So if you can get clear on three main things you have to do really well in your job description, that's going to make your life easier. I always tell folks that you can bottle it up into either you make a company money, save a company money, or make someone's life easier. It's probably one of those three things, if not more than one of those three things. So just think about your own job that you're currently in right now. Do you have clear expectations on what it is you're supposed to do? And you can reach out to your manager and ask them about that, right? When they give you a project to work on, let's say, for instance, I'll just use ones that are internal with our organization. When I say to Sarah, hey, we need to get the show notes up and the podcast ready to go for next Wednesday. what she's going to say to me when she was first starting this, okay, can you paint done for me? So this is a term used by Brene Brown in her Dare to Lead book, which I highly recommend. And she talks about how and I love this methodology, is she will ask the person who's asking her for something to paint done. Like, show me what done looks like for you. Because the way that I'm interpreting it may be different than the way that you are trying to say it. Like, what I'm hearing is different. It's kind of like marriage counseling, right? Like, what the one person is saying, the other person's hearing something totally different. The same thing can happen in the workplace. And so you need to get crystal clear with your micromanager. Hey, can you tell me exactly what done looks like? Okay, can you clarify that a little bit more? Okay, when you say done, what does that mean here? And by doing that, that's going to, it seems like a lot of work up front, which it kind of is, but in the end, everyone's going to be happier. It's going to be more streamlined. It's going to be more focused. And then everybody's expectations will hopefully be met as best as possible. Obviously, things happen in business. We can't do it 100% of the time, but if you can get in that rhythm of doing that, that's going to make it a lot easier for you both to manage and set expectations. The second thing, or the next thing after that, really is to understand the goals and evaluation metrics. So know how you're going to be evaluated. Is it going to be on how many blog posts that you do? Is it going to be maybe how much money you produce for the organization? Is it going to be if you're able to create certain efficiencies for the organization? Is it that you're going to make your boss's life easier? What is it specifically for you? Get really clear on what those goals look like and get clear on your evaluation metrics. That's going to make it a lot easier for you. If your micromanager is pushing back and getting frustrated with you for some reason, you can push back to them and say, hey, this is what we discussed. Here's the goals. Here's my expectations. I'm trying to meet these goals. Is that still in line with what you want? And just being very crystal clear. Clear is kind. That's what Brene Brown says. Clear is kind. And I'm totally with her on that. And here's the other thing about defining expectations that I have just found from working with so many people. And I'm giggling to myself, is that oftentimes managers, especially new ones, don't really know what their expectations are. And I was 100% this person. When I hired my first marketing manager, bless her, she was wonderful. We just weren't a good fit. But I really didn't know what my expectations were. I did not know what I really needed. And so by laying this information out, it helps you both get on the same page and will help hopefully distill some of that micromanaging. So you have to have some grace with your manager because they might not know. They're figuring it out as they go along too. I think we think of our managers to this, we hold them to this higher standard, which we should, but we also have to remember they're rookies too. This is the first time they're working with you. This is the first time they maybe are experiencing this problem. This is maybe the first time they're delegating out tasks in a certain way. Have some grace with them that they are a rookie as much as you're a rookie. All right. The next stage is to anticipate your manager's concern. So I remember just being a student when I first started my career, I really wanted to pay attention to how different managers wanted certain things. So I was in investment banking and one of my managers liked Excel documents to look a very certain way. And then 3 different managers cared about how their PowerPoint presentations looked, and all of them looked different. So I was just trying to be a sponge and take in as much as possible and notice what was important to each individual. You should be doing this with your micromanager because the biggest thing that helps you do is to build trust. To get ahead of what their style is, you have to do the work and understand what they care about. And that's going to eliminate surprises for them. Micromanagers hate surprises. I personally love surprises. I'm a huge fan of surprise birthday parties, surprise anything. They do not love surprises. You have to eliminate as much surprises as possible because that's going to be really frustrating for them if they find out that something wasn't finished that should have been finished. Just anticipate their concerns, anticipate what they're going to care about, and make sure that you eliminate any surprises along the way. Perfect example is if you are maybe in sales, for instance, and you have a client that's just not loving working with you guys and eventually wants to, move on. The worst thing for a manager, a micromanager, is to not be told about that. So update them, but update them with a solution to the problem. So don't just tell them the problem. Say, this is how I'm working on it. This is how I'm solving this issue. Do you have any suggestions? It includes them in it. It doesn't leave them in the dark because that's going to be their worst nightmare, to be left in the dark. So you need to eliminate surprises as much as possible. And then finally, the last part of that is to really update. Because your micromanager will Slack you if you don't. They will email you if you don't. They will text you if you don't. You need to get ahead of them and make sure that you have a consistent rhythm of updating them on what your progress is. If you know that they're a micromanager and they don't really know it yet, and you know that that's going to be something that's going to be an issue for you guys, make sure that you have a consistent rhythm. So if they start then messing with that rhythm, you can say to them very kindly, say, hey, thanks so much for your feedback. I'm going to be emailing you every day at 4:00, just an update on the status of the project. Would that be an appropriate time for me to check in with you to tell you where the status is? Just be clear. It's okay. And that'll give them the hint like, okay, well, I know it's coming at 4:00. So if it comes at 4:00, I can anticipate that. They just want to know. It eliminates surprises, right? And so if they know that it's coming, they may be more apt to like leave you alone and let you do your thing and help you actually get the work done. You can even tell them, hey, when you message me 5 times, I'm actually not able to get the work done. Would it be appropriate if I messaged you around noon every single day to tell you the status and update of what we're working on? Would that be okay? And if they're a decent human being, they'll probably say yes. If you have built rapport with them over time, they'll probably say yes. Now, if they're not, then they're hostile. I usually think most reasonable people will respond well to that kind of phrasing and that kind of messaging. So just make sure that you're firm and kind in the process and you're not passive aggressive. That's the worst thing that you can do because it's just feeding their fire and it's stooping to that level. You do not want to be that person. All right. So how do you avoid becoming one? Now that we've covered how to deal with your specific manager. So you first have to empathize with them. Then you have to define expectations. And I would recommend always anticipating your manager's concerns. How do you avoid becoming a micromanager yourself? First things first, self-awareness. I think this is the most underutilized business tool out there. I know for myself, the more self-aware I am, the better my business does. The more self-aware I am, the better manager I am to Sarah and to potential future employees, right? I need to be crystal clear on what my issues are and where I fall short. I think entrepreneurship for me has kind of catapulted that to a new level that I'm not sure I would have gotten in corporate life. Because when you work for yourself, you're exposed to all your mess. There's no one to clean up after you. And so for me, I know my weaknesses are really in prioritization. I have a hard time, like I'm the shiny object syndrome girl, right? I know that I am bad at X, Y, and Z, and I'm not ashamed to admit that. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at micro planning out. Like I have a really big vision for something and I need Sarah to come in and help me plan it out because otherwise it's not going to happen. I am not good with the follow through. So I know these things about myself and that's going to make me it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just the reality of how my brain is wired. And there are some things that I can do to improve it, but I'm not going to overexert myself in a direction that's not going to make sense for me. So all of that to say, you should be self-aware and realize, like, am I controlling this situation? How many times a day am I reaching out to my employee? How many emails am I actually sending? Does this come? Would I want someone to respond to me this way? Like think through some of those things. And that's going to help you become more self-aware throughout the entire process of your career. And you can only be becoming better at that, right? Continually on this journey of becoming more self-aware. And then another way that you can avoid becoming one is on that self-awareness spectrum is to really think about what are you scared of? Are you scared of getting fired? Are you scared of not making enough money? Is that why are you acting out now because of that, right? So if you are scared of losing your job because you're worried about the work being done well, then maybe you might be micromanaging. Just make sure you're not, right? It's that self-awareness piece that's really, really important. Thinking about what are you scared of? What are your fears? How are you operating then out of those fears? What's happening downstream that's derived from those fears that you're currently having? What's your identity in too, right? So get straight on your identity. Do you think that you are only valuable and worthwhile if you do really good work? Or you do things, or you do more, right? And I'm preaching to myself, friends, right? So we have to avoid becoming a micromanager if we get crystal clear on our identity. Because if we trust that our identity is rooted in ourselves, or for myself, it's rooted in Christ, like I have to get crystal clear on that, because if I'm able to actually operate out of that posture, I'm not going to stress Sarah out. I'm not going to stress out about money coming in. I'm not going to stress out about things that don't really matter because it's beyond my control. I'm going to get clear that my value is my value regardless if I make $10,000 one month or $100,000 one month. My value is exactly the same if I produce 5 pieces of content or 1 piece of content. My value is the same regardless of all of those different things. So if you're able to root your identity very solidly in something that is more stable, in my case, eternal, you have to think about for yourself, where are you rooting your identity? It's a question we should always be asking ourselves. Do we identify too much with our work and our success at work? And this is a topic I love diving into because it's something that I personally struggle with continually. I am never fully kind of quote unquote there, but it's something I'm constantly exploring because I know that if I have my identity rooted completely in work and expecting work to be my end all be all, my happiness, if I romanticize workaholism, if I do all of these things, then it's going to come out sideways in different ways and different perspectives. So I want to make sure I'm not doing that. So I have to get straight on my identity, and I encourage you all to do the same. All right, friends, that wraps up today's episode. I'm really excited to hear your feedback and your takeaways. Again, this is not an opportunity to just shame your micromanager, but it's merely to give you some tools and equip you to make sure, one, you don't become one, and two, to deal with the ones that you do have. So I hope that this has been helpful. We're going to do some more leadership development content in the new year. I know you guys are going to absolutely love that, but hit me up on LinkedIn, hit me up on Instagram. Do people say hit me up anymore? I kind of paused there. Tell me what your biggest takeaway was from this episode. I would love to hear it. You can, again, find me on LinkedIn. Just search for my name, or Instagram. Also, just search for my name. You're going to find me pop up really easily. And again, if you have that LinkedIn Premium, check out the full entire course that I have on there of how to deal with a micromanager. It is live right now on the LinkedIn Learning platform. So I cannot wait though, guys. Last final thing. This is the last episode, like the full last episode of season 3 for all of 2019. I'm just so grateful that you guys have joined me along in this ride, and that it's just been so much fun chatting with all of you about different things and getting your feedback. And I'm just encouraged by you guys. So if you ever have any ideas about what we should include on the podcast, I would love to hear those. But tomorrow, we are actually releasing a bonus bingeable podcast series that you can listen to if you're flying off to somewhere cool for Christmas, or you're driving home, or even if you just have some time off. We're doing a bonus bingeable episode. There's 10 episodes that are going to be releasing tomorrow, and I cannot wait to hear how you guys enjoy them. I'm so excited about them. We recorded them about a month ago, and it's been something I've been working on for a long time, and I know it's going to be valuable for a lot of you. So make sure that you hit subscribe right now to get alerted once that bingeable series goes live. All right, guys, I will see you in 2020. See you then. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for listening to Your Career Story podcast. I would love to get to meet you. And there are a couple of ways that we can connect in between episodes. First and foremost, you know I love my LinkedIn. Second is via Instagram. And third is over on my website. I actually have a special spot just for you full of fun, free resources. So all you have to do is go to www.jennaviviano.com/resources. Super simple, for a bunch of freebies that will help you boost your career. Hope to see you next week.